Okay, I think we're live now. So good evening, everybody. This is a special early edition in the week to the Blob Watch, and I've got two very special guests indeed this evening. First of all, we got Harry and Glàeddyv reoccurring. I think this is the third time in about under a week now.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you. And of course, we've brought out all the big guns this evening. We've got Sargon of Akkad. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being on. And so this episode, like the last episode, we talked about critical theory, and we sort of skirted around the topic of critical race theory. So I guess this week we sort of go into critical race theory, with current examples and even implications of how it affects the world outside academia, when it's applied to the world outside academia. And we can go into, say, like the Rotherham grooming gangs, because there's quite a few interesting points on there from South Yorkshire Police, which sort of reinforces, I guess, what's been taught in these training sessions that's been going on with teaching critical race theory. You can see the sort of language that's being used when especially in the parliamentary committee sessions with the South Yorkshire Police Chief Constable.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I can imagine what it looks like. It'll be use the word anti-racist, anti-bias, things like intersectional as well, of course. You know exactly what it's going to look like.
Yeah, and I mean the first bit of it was him running. First of all, he was saying I just didn't know about it. I won't defend it, and then but I didn't want to cause community tension, so that's why my officers said that a 12-year-old is not a victim, it's a child prostitute, which is mental in on itself.
Yeah. Then there's
we normally call those victims, officer. We normally call people you're describing as child prostitutes victims of rapists.
It depends on the race, obviously.
Yes.
Replies the police. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And of course, there's one video that I got up, which is probably gives you, an implication of, and this was, this is quite an old one. This is back probably about 2017, that sort of time frame, and it was an accusation that a searcher for I think it was the Home Office who was looking into this was approached by two officers and harassed, and this sort of was mentioned in the committee meeting. It was Nicola Blackwood, who was an MP at the time, who raised this, and it was basically the accusation from this parliamentary aide that the police officers were not just knowing of this, they were actually physically facilitating this. But there hasn't, again, the grooming gang report is what should reveal all of these accusations, all of these, I guess, maybe even classed as rumors, because we just don't know what the full picture of it is, what the full scope of this is. So that is another thing that I managed to find, which we can definitely have a look at later on. But first, I'll just let's go to Parley Reach, because that's quite an interesting one, because that's something that, Sargon, I know that you recently made a video sort of reaction, I guess, to this Parley Reach Twitter post. Calling
went through and let people know it existed. There's a lot of roots to it, to be honest, and it's quite concerning.
Yeah. Now, for people who don't know, Parley Reach is a organization within the I guess it's the UK Parliament office. It's not the political individuals who operate, not politicians who operate this. This is basically like the those who run the Palace of Westminster, those who work behind the scenes like your Sir Humphrey types, that sort of stuff. They're the ones that
the civil servants. Yeah.
The civil servants. Yeah. I don't know if they are civil servant technically, but I imagine along those lines, yeah, civil servants.
Quango or something like that, it'll be
yes.
Somebody that is unelected and yet paid for by the British public.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those, and of course, like many organizations within government, within all aspects of the media and the government, they have a diversity, quote unquote, diversity program. And as you can see on screen here, we've got Parley Reach, who are again organisation within Parliament, paid for by the taxpayer, supporting Black Lives Matter. And this back in June 5th. And I know that there are some that would say that, well, the public knowledge behind Black Lives Matter UK and what they say on their website about defunding the police and all the anti-Semitism stuff wasn't known. Sorry, it was known then. It was known from the start. And anybody who says that, we can't attack these people because they just didn't know the full picture. No, sorry, it was there on their website from the start. And so there's no excuse in my book for having taxpayer-funded organization supporting a Marxist Leninist organization which is hell-bent on adopting divisive American identity politics.
Yeah, and I think the main issue is similar to the police officers that we were talking about before. It's just because if they say no to any of these people, they get called racist, and that seems to be a massive. It just seems to be a mark of death on anyone in any position.
Okay, that's interesting. That was your opinion. Now, moving on. Like, I don't care what you think is racist.
I mean, yeah, that is our attitude, and that is definitely what the attitude of the average person probably is. But the people in power in the public space.
Oh no, that's what it should be. People should just get to the point where it's like, look, I know I'm not a racist. Let's just talk about the issue, rather than your hysterical feelings. But like you are right. Obviously, the atmosphere being called a racist is political death. Yeah.
But Sargon and Hayran, you don't understand. You don't know you're racist. You are unconscious. Your brain is racist, and you just don't know about it. And of course, it's built in, society. It's so deep rooted. It's so deep rooted, and it happens all around you, and you just don't notice. And so this is basically what to do when you can't protest on the streets for Black Lives Matter. And of course, not everyone in the Black community can physically gather, march, or protest, but other forms of activism and self-care, especially during the coronavirus pandemic, which has disproportionately affected Black lives, are just as valid. Right.
I thought it was babe rather than just black.
Well, technically it is too. I mean, because that's the purpose of these diversity schemes. It's meant to be for BAME. It's not just for Black, but obviously they didn't get that doesn't fit the messaging for this.
Yeah, well, the messaging seems to change all the time. It doesn't matter as long as the messaging is for some particular race that isn't white, from the looks of it.
Well, they're changing the goalposts on like the various websites or various sites that they have domain over, because like first they were saying they wanted to abolish the nuclear family. Now they've completely got rid of that section on their website.
Same like massively unpopular. That's why.
Well, yeah, and
the Conservatives were all making a lot of hay out of it, and they decided obviously to take it down. Wise move. It probably shouldn't be your policy. It's a terrible policy.
Yeah, we want to end things that help people.
Yeah. Why do we want to do that again?
Well, exactly.
Well, the revolutionaries, aren't they?
Well, yeah. But I like the way what they're doing is essentially saying that the worst case scenario is fine for everyone. And it's like, no. And this just proves exactly the point about communism. Because the only way that everyone can be the same is if everyone is at the very bottom. And if some percentage of families or people don't form families, then the rest are somehow oppressing them because it's not equal. And it's like, well, that's too damn bad.
Just make your own family, yeah.
Well, it's,
Very
me having a family doesn't oppress you because you don't have a family.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, incels.
Yeah. And it's not like the black community, especially in London, don't have a I mean, they have the problem with the family structure. Is I mean, I would say, I mean, I think there's been studies on this, but it definitely is a heavy contributor to gang crime, knife crime, all aspects of violent crime and drugs and such, because there is that breakdown in the family unit.
At least that's what David Lammy said in 2012. I mean, you know, I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, I think Diane Abbott even went on to say in Question Time once as well, actually, come to think of it.
It's because it's so obviously and manifestly true, isn't it? You know,
well,
if young men don't have fathers around, they're going to turn into assholes.
Yeah, but then the alt-right said it, and then it's a bad.
That's basically it, isn't it? Yeah. That's literally it. You know?
Yeah, because you do bring up a lot, Sargon, in quite a lot of debates. I especially remember the one of Destiny, and now people are trying to meme it like it's like, oh, just get a family and it'll fix it. It's like, no, you're missing the point.
Well, honestly, yes, you've got no fucking choice. You can't fix it without a family. It's just like, shut the fuck up and suck it up. You know, you just have no choice. Just do it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's worked for literally millennia. Why would you stop? Oh,
in all times, in all places, in all cultures, it seems to. And then as soon as you take it away, suddenly human beings start going off the rails and murdering each other, and you know they're depressed, and you know life's terrible. They've got no meaning or purpose. And it's like, well, okay, maybe it's not as complicated as we're making out. You know, maybe just address that. That's a good start, at least. You know.
Oh, it's inequality causing this. It's like no, we're less unequal now than ever before, and there's more crime. It can't be that.
We've always had inequality. We haven't always had more crime and more stabbings and deaths than New York. You know, there's something new here.
Yeah. I think it goes to show also the Marxist attempt to effectively declare all-out war on Western culture and Western history, especially history itself. I mean, it is a complete total out war because, of course, anything that happened in the past involved, which whenever savoring. I mean, even going back as far as some of the radical left I've seen on social media, even talk about the Romans and the ancient Greeks and such. I mean, it's like, where are you going to stop? where are you going to stop? You're gonna, I mean, they're going to have to go back to the Bronze Age before they.
Well, I've noticed that the conversation at points has veered into, are the English indigenous to England? And it's like, yes. By any metric that you use for any other people anywhere else in the world, the English are indigenous to England. Next question.
Yes, the Welsh are foreign, the Saxons are native. We all know this.
Chad Anglo gang.
Yeah, sorry, Owain. I don't care about your Welsh. It's foreign. It's foreign language. It's worse than French. So this was the point of contention that I think this is where the tweet where it sort of became known was, of course, the radicalize yourself bit, which is not something you want to hear out of effectively the British establishment, especially with a conservative government. It's something actually it's the one thing you shouldn't hear. It's the complete opposite of what you should hear.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, radicalize yourself to do what? To have radical change? What, against yourselves? You are the government. Like, who are you going to revolt against? Like, honestly, what's your plan?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, this is why AA always says, the revolution happened in Tony Blair's time.
Yes.
This is not the revolution. This is the counter-revolution, really.
Well, I think we're sort of in the reign of terror period plus revolution plus counter-revolution. I think it's I mean the trouble is I think I guess what you say with the Brexiteers / Patriots would be the revolution, because that was the revolutionary force Brexit, which because it wasn't just about the EU itself, it would encompass all aspects of society.
Yeah, Brexit's definitely a counter-revolution against Blairism, in my opinion.
It was, and I think it also, I mean, David Starkey, he talked about how if you look at the map of the areas that voted Remain and areas that voted Leave, it is exactly the same of where the Reformations took hold in England during the 16th century, and where you had sort of like the more Catholic holdouts as well, and you can sort of see the similarity where in the southeast it was very still traditional to the Roman Catholic European order, and then the sort of rest of England, which was more open to the reform, the Reformation, the reforms. In
Well,
the Church of England.
I don't have to do this, but like, I mean, maybe we need to take John Locke's advice on Catholics and tolerate everyone except them.
Oh no!
Well,
just for reference, I am Catholic.
You don't have to be.
Yes, I know. Bloody hell! I'm a based Catholic. I swear.
Oh, okay. I believe you. I believe you.
Well, I mean,
how many generations from Ireland are you?
2. Oh no!
How did I know?
Oh dear. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I even look at I'm ginger as well, so it's obvious. I can just say I'm Scottish, it'll be fine. I know, I had the worst. Oh dear. Yeah, but I mean, this is all this radicalize yourself stuff. Like, this is who is this? This is 2 people working for the civil service, isn't it? That's who they're saying.
It just goes to show. I mean, these people probably get paid like 30 grand a year or something. Disgusting.
It's the pension where most of the money goes. I know that because I have a few associates in the civil service, and I nearly worked for them myself. Luckily, I didn't get that placement, so dodged it.
But yeah, this is a really radical reading list, just so you know. I mean, just look at the titles: revolutionary suicide, unapologetic, black, queer, and feminist mandate for radical movements. Like, fuck off. Pleasure activism. Oh yeah. I bet they've got some ideas on the age of consent, don't they?
Oh my!
You know, the politics of feeling good. Yeah, okay. All right, the left.
I was going to point that out. Well, 1, yes, but 2, it just boil it all down to, you know, we do what we do because it makes us feel good, and it's just like it's the politics of hedonism essentially.
Yeah, it's literally proving that Mill and Epicurus were wrong, but people wouldn't. If we had infinite resources, just fulfill their animal pleasures. It's like, no, of course they would. It'd just be easy, and they would be satisfied to do it all day, every day. Can't be allowed.
Yeah, and a lot of communists. A lot of communists just talk about, you know, post scarcity as if it's ever going to happen. It comes up a lot in Aaron Bastani's book, which it's just
I haven't read it actually. What's it like?
It's awful. It made me want to do like a Mauler cover of it, like just a massive critique. I got to 20,000 words into the script, and I only got up to about page 30, and then I'm like, oh, this is too long.
I'm bad. Holy shit! Maybe I should read it.
It is worth the read, just because it's really weird. This off topic, but it'll be quick. So the first part's all about how, you know, modern liberalism's failed, whatever.
Sure.
Bringing up things that are nothing to do with it. Then the second part, he basically sounds like a lib right. He's like, oh, we need loads of freedom from the government to, you know, carry on with gene editing, to mine the asteroids, whatever. And then in the last
gene editing,
he does, yeah.
So he's a eugenicist.
I don't necessarily know if he's a eugenicist, but
well, what else are we going to be editing the genes for?
Well, like, from what I remember, because I read this like 2 years ago, but from what I remember, it was basically because he bases all these off real stories, and one of them's like some guy was editing the genes of dogs, and the US government stopped him, even though he was helping dogs, you know, fix genetic diseases and things like that.
Right. Okay.
Which I'm for.
Yeah, I can see the benefit of that.
But then in his last part, he talks about how, we actually need daddy government to do everything for us, and it's just like, no, Aaron, you don't understand.
Yeah, that's not how this works, Aaron.
Yeah. But yeah, me and Joz has just said in the chat he might do a stream with me on it. I don't know how I'm going to approach it, but I do want to do a video on it. But 20,000 words into my script, and I just was like,
you can't let that go to waste.
No, I know. So I might chop it down and then just cover each part as a whole. But yeah, but
make a series out of it.
That's what I was going to do. I was going to do one part each, but I'll need a lot of free time for that, which I don't have at the moment. But we'll get around to it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the names on the suggested reading list. So Bell Hooks, quite an interesting one because she was the one that, if I remember correctly, she argued that mass media was a form of white supremacy and upheld white supremacy. So obviously, CNN and MSNBC, obviously all the wings of the Klan, and Hugh P. Newton, he was a Black Panther, again involved in a shooting, fatal shooting. Which this would be a recurring theme with some of these on the list, by the way, involved with shootings, and obviously fleeing to other countries. So we'll get on
Imagine my shock.
So who would have thought violent revolutionaries could be murderous? And then, of course, I think one probably that we know is it Assata Shakur? I don't know if I pronounced that right.
Assata Shakur, yeah.
Yeah, Shakur. And she was the one that shot a New Jersey state trooper and fled to Cuba, where I believe she still is there today.
Yep. She's a very old lady. Because it happened in like the 60s or something.
Yeah.
A very long time ago that she did it. But yeah, she fled.
She fled to Cuba.
She's a lunatic as well. She's an absolute lunatic. You can just read, find a few paragraphs that she's written, and you'll find obviously the most insane, white-hating, just psycho that you've ever seen. It's okay, right? She's mental. Got it. No wonder they lionize her.
Yeah, and but this is, I mean, if you take this like the civil rights movement, you see this clear split, especially going into the 70s, where you had the elements. I don't want to say the hippie culture because I mean it's too much of a broad term, but
yeah, I know what you mean in the counterculture.
The counterculture, yeah, that's probably a better way to describe it. The counterculture. You had the ones that were more about obviously the peace and love aspect, and probably weren't the all-out revolutionaries, but were wanting to make a change. And then you had the all-out revolutionaries in like 70s and beyond that went down the violent path. And I mean, there was. I think back. You had like the organization. Have you guys heard of the Weathermen?
I have heard. They were a terrorist organization, weren't they? Yeah,
they did, and they blew up Dustin Hoffman's house in New York. They actually blew up a 3-story house in New York. If I remember correctly, though, I don't think they actually blew it up intentionally. I think what happened was they were renting in the same property as Dustin Hoffman, and they were mixing chemicals, and in true Taliban style, they blew themselves up.
4 lions.
Yeah, so that's what happened, and then of course they robbed banks, and they took like a wealthy heiress as hostage, and then she joined them, and it sort of all went on. Yes, yeah, because the parents are going there saying, "Oh, please return our daughter," and everything. And then it was like on CCTV, because early CCTV, and it was shown that she was like holding a gun and had like a beret on and everything, and went full Che Guevara mode. And it was basically the whole narrative the parents were putting out there just completely disappeared. Because I just trying to think with the news reporter, he basically just said. He just went for one clip saying this, good, little all American sort of family being rocked by this tragic claim of this poor girl, and they still made her out to be the victim, even after.
I mean, maybe she gets captured, brainwashed by communists. Maybe that is a victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be captured and brainwashed by communists. I'd say I was the victim of it if it happened to me.
I mean, to be fair, she did sort of lead them on the. I mean, when it came to the bank robbery, she sort of was like the leader on it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the thing is, could you not say the same thing about people captured by ISIS? I guess
people like captured by ISIS.
Take it over, like she pretty much took over. I imagine when she was captured, you guys
Yeah.
don't know how to run anything. I'm going to have to show you how to do it. And
Is this
That
a
is,
revolution or what?
that is Stockholm syndrome on steroids, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, you raise
maybe
a
the
good point.
communists were all the ones kidnapped, and she was just, she was the one that kidnapped them.
It's 4D chess.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, the list of names on here are filled with murderers, scumbags, and other low lives that should have no real, should not be idolized in I think, in a modern, supposedly mature society. I just these individuals, whether or not you agree that these books should be read, I mean, I personally, I don't think books should be banned. I think you should read all sorts of bad and incompetent writers' work. But I think the fact, again, government pushing material by murderers is just,
It's just them having a sane one. That's it. Just this cop killer. Yeah. Read her book. This will be a great book. Fucking insane.
This is what we want from our society.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. If we're going to listen, my message to my part, because of course I'm a member of the Conservative Party. My message to the government and the party is, if I will radicalize myself, I am now pro helicopter choice. I am pro helicopter. I'm pro all the removal. I'm fully on board. I have radicalized myself. Congratulations, you got me to the point that you wanted me at.
Pinochet did nothing wrong.
He really didn't, actually. I mean, look at it.
Yeah, were helicopters too humane?
Well, I think he needs. I don't think he had enough helicopters, to be honest. You should.
It is amazing how many people are generally sympathetic with it now. Yeah,
well, I mean, the trouble is, like, the reason why Pinochet did the helicopter. I mean, okay, I know we meme it a lot, but to be fair, he was. We know the Soviet Union, and I mean, yes, and the America and the CIA and everything, but we know the Soviet Union did play like proxy wars, Cold War proxy wars in South America. So I can understand why he did what he did. And looking at where the current trajectory is at the moment, do I blame him for his methods? Maybe not as much as you would think.
Did he go far enough? Well, good question. On today's show.
Yeah, it's McCarthy as well. It's like, was it?
Well, McCarthy seems to have done nothing wrong in hindsight, does he?
Yeah, he was right on everything. All the people that he accused were communists, and probably didn't find enough communists, to be honest. I mean,
was it Dev who tweeted the difference between witch hunts and McCarthy is that McCarthy didn't have any false positives or something. Yeah, it's like, oh, is he wrong?
You're not.
It's amazing how we're in there. Well, yeah, and as you say, now we've got this Parler Reach thing. I don't know if, I did a stream on it a few weeks ago now about governments backing resources for people homeschooling since kids couldn't go to school. Basically doing 2 whole lessons on Black Lives Matter and how George Floyd was a good boy.
Fucking hell. Really?
Yeah, I've got a whole stream on it. I was told by quite a few. I have a friend who homeschools her kids, and she sent it to a few of her friends, and all of them were commenting like, please stop swearing, Hayran, because I was getting really annoyed and I was quite drunk. But yeah, there's a bit where he's like, think about this scenario. There's this white off-duty cop in plain clothes, and he's going to a bank, and then he describes, there's this black guy, I can't remember what he calls him, and he's like, it's a sunny day, but he's wearing a black hoodie, his lucky black gloves, tracksuit bottoms, and his favorite trainers, and he's basically saying he looks like a bank robber. And so it basically goes through the story, and you can tell what's going to happen. He's like, the off-duty cop hears the bank alarm go off, and then he sees the black guy running out dressed all in black, and he starts chasing him, and it's like, was he right to do so? And it kind of makes it sound like he shouldn't have done so, because it turns out he's actually chasing the robber. And it's just like, but if you see a bank alarm going off and you see someone dressed in all black of any race running away from it, that's just putting 2 and 2 together, isn't it? But this is the type of thing they're teaching kids, and that's what the government's backing. Basically, don't trust your instincts because you might be racist.
Well, that goes to back to the unconscious, the fact that
Bias,
your brain is your unconscious bias, that your brain is actually racist, and your brain fulfills these negative stereotypes that has existed in society, and all that, and it's basic. I mean, it is deny you of your natural instincts when it comes to that, because as you said, anybody running out of a bank with alarm going off, wearing black, I guess you'd have to make a split second, like most police officers and such, they make split second decisions, because if you look at someone like these, especially in the US, like with the guy in Kenosha that was shot, not Kyle the Kenosha kid, but the first chap who was shot by the police. The moment.
Is that Blake?
Blake, yeah. The moment from when because he was basically attacking these police officers, and he got up, he walked round his car, went into the front passenger seat, and the amount of time that took him to get up, walk around, was a few seconds. And the trouble is, when you have a lot of these, the media reports afterwards, they make it sound like they don't really give the context deliberately of how long these. The events and how they actually take place in a matter of split second. And if any of you were watching, go see the body cam for that or any other footage, you'll see how fast the whole situation can change. And to be honest, I don't think there is much training. So people say, "Oh, you can train the police for better." Yeah, police could probably be trained better, but for those sort of split seconds, you can't train anybody. It has to come from experience 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, well, it's Louis Levi who basically radicalized me. Well, not radicalized, but he put me on the side that the cops are generally trustworthy in America. Obviously, I mean, even he admits, there are bad ones, but he mentions that like 9 times out of 10, that's due to like they're usually trying to get like fraud cases, the cops, rather than like they're actually out to try and kill people. Especially, well, I can imagine they probably try and shoot black people less because of the things we see in Kenosha and Minneapolis and places like
the
that.
Politics of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do we know? I mean, I don't know, but that might even cost some cops their life. But we don't hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But like, you watch the dash cam, the body cam footage videos, and it's like, holy shit, man! Like, the last thing you want is to be stuck on these streets without some sort of defense, because, like you say, it just happens so fast. Everything happens so fast.
And one thing I actually hate is like again the commentators.
Shoot him in the leg.
Shoot him in the exactly.
Do
you know how when you shoot somebody, you can shoot someone in the chest like 3 to 4 times, and they can still be up for like about what was it, like 50 seconds? They can still be up walking. It's like fucking adrenaline's pumping through the body. It's not like it's not like bloody Die Hard. They shoot them in the leg and it takes off like half the fucking muscle. To be fair though, the Kenosha kid did shoot him in the arm and it did stop him. So, but that was, I mean, again, that close quarter.
Yeah.
I imagine Kyle Rittenhouse was the one being pumped with adrenaline rather than the guy who got shot in the arm.
That was some. I mean, that's some like Fallout level quick draw right there that he did.
He was. Yeah, he definitely did the right thing. And how? I mean, why he's in jail on 2 million bail? Well, he's being charged for murder, so that's why. But how anyone can like how people like Vorsh and the Surfs guy can in any way try and defend it is beyond me. Oh, he crossed state lines.
Because if it was if it was like a mob of Trump supporters, and it was an Antifa guy, and the Antifa guy shot 2 Trump supporters, we know that Vorsh and such would all defend them to the hilt. We all know it. It's just because.
But more importantly, they'd expect us to condemn the Antifa and join the support the Trump supporters just on partisan principles, along partisan lines. But I mean, if the Trump supporters are in the wrong, I'd say no, they're in the wrong.
Exactly. I mean, there's footage going around at the moment of Trump supporters where I don't know where it was in the US, but they sort of like charged like this one Antifa chap, and he sort of knocked him to the ground and slapped him around the face and everything. And while I mean it's funny, but I mean I think I put it on Twitter when I saw it, I just said, listen, that Trump's in a good place at the moment because the Dems are going mental. They are literally enacting ISIS level violence upon the population.
Fucking vegan ISIS, yeah.
And that's why Trump, let's be honest, that's why Trump is probably going to be doing a lot better than he naturally would do at any other point, right?
Yeah, probably.
So,
well, that and Biden.
Yeah, that and Biden, yeah. And so my message to Trump supporters is this: don't give them any reason to, lambast Trump further, because if you're going to go out and you're just going to deliberately look for fights, and they're going to film it and they're going to put it up there and they're going to be saying, look at these neo-Nazis going around beating up these innocent anti-fascist protesters. And all you do is you give CNN and you give all these fake news outlets the headlines that they want, and that's all you do.
Yeah, just don't give them ammo. I mean, I think all of us have been saying that for years. Just giving them ammo is the worst thing you can do. It's like, it doesn't matter how much evidence we have that we're either doing nothing wrong or they're doing things wrong. They're so partisan, it doesn't matter. But when it supports them, it supports what they're saying. It really does, which is why they're trying so hard to change the Rittenhouse narrative. Yeah.
And so I mean, so obviously we've gone through the Parley Reach thing again. I mean, this is again. I mean, when I saw this, I wasn't surprised about this because I mean, this sort of thing I'm expecting now at the moment coming out of government. So
enjoy the black pill.
Yeah, quite literally, actually. So the next one is, of course, the diversity training. So I imagine you guys have heard about I know that you, Sargon, have heard because I think you a video on it, but the Tory MPs that rebelled against this decision, obviously making it sound like a massive victory. I mean, again, from my perspective, every single Conservative should not just be rebelling against it, but should actively, absolutely actively destroying anything.
They should be drafting measures against it. They should be passing bills to just get this shit out of Parliament as quickly as possible. And they've got the majority. There's nothing they need to wait for. No one can stop them. Just go and do it. Critical race theory is racist according to the government's definitions. Therefore, it will be banned from being taught or funded or whatever throughout the entire United Kingdom. We're not having racist ideology being taught in schools and universities. Boom, boom, boom. Do it. Just fucking do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, Equalities Act, all that crap.
Exactly.
Needs to be gone. But
exactly.
This is the thing. Who do we vote for if not the Tories? Because UKIP died a death. Brexit Party was single issue. Like the right wing can't seem to hold a party at the moment.
No, I wish Farage would get something together.
I think the problem is it comes if you look at like the Conservative. I mean I see this obviously being a member and everything. I get to see how it operates. What you've got is effectively you've got two wings of the party. You got the young and then you got the boomers. Nothing much in between, and that is because the problem is the sort of what you would say the middle-aged Republicans that you got at the moment in America, who are sort of leading the charge on against what's going on at the moment. We don't have that in this country. And I think one thing, I think Academic Agent referenced it, but the fact is we don't live in a time of visionary or people with ideas on this topic. And I think effectively, and this might sound like a really bad, because I know I coined this as a part of the stream of strategy, but I think we just have to wait. I know as bad as that sounds.
It does sound bad.
Again.
It sounds bad, but the point is, and then go back to Yuri Bezmenov thing. Effectively, I mean, as he said, this generation, the ones that have been radicalized, they're gone. There is no redemption for them. Collectively, that is, there is no redemption. Maybe individual redemption for some, like, but if they come have like a on the road to conversion, then maybe. But for most part, there isn't anything we can do. I mean, apart from the next generation, and that's where I think the right, or not just the right, but the anti-progressives in the West need to be thinking 20, 30 years in the future with this. There needs to be some great thought of how to combat what's going on, but also I was talking to Owen about this within the Conservative Party. We've noticed that there is this trend, especially amongst younger members in the party, the ones who are I guess you could say at the university stages, they are more aware of what's going on through obviously like YouTube and such. Many of them are your viewers, Sargon, and academic agents, and sort of this sort of general political sphere on YouTube. They're very much aware of what's going on, and then they're the ones that are going to be coming through. But then you got your Oxbridge type who are the legacy of the Blair and Cameron mentality, and so I can see in probably about 10 years quite a bit of a civil war breaking out in the party between these two factions who will be coming through and taking over from the boomers.
I well hope so.
And so the point is, and I know people have been saying in the chat that here about someone like Ben Bradley and sort of the various other Red Wall North conservatives who seem to be quite based on some of these topics, and are actually completely right. I mean, I think Ben Bradley is probably the one that's on topic on this completely, because he acknowledged that all of it, unconscious bias training, is a Marxist ploy. I mean, some of them have been saying like it's woke and everything, but it's deeper than that, and a lot of them probably don't understand the depth of what's going on. And so we have to cultivate people like Ben Bradley and those sort of people. We have to show them that what they're doing, because they're going to have a lot of like shit thrown at them from the mainstream media for saying this, because they're going to. I mean, I noticed that when you talk about cultural Marxism, the new thing, especially in UK media at the moment, is suggesting that it's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that seems to be the latest one being flung around.
Yeah, it seems to be because like the Nazis said it or something, and it's like the Nazis said a lot of things. Like,
well, the Nazis,
I don't care.
The Nazis
I actually don't give a shit what the Nazis said. Communist.
Yeah.
Well, the Nazis said that they should ban hunting. So again, my pro-hunting belief makes me an anti-fascist. Yes. Again,
anti-fascist.
Yeah. It's it's just Poe's law. Is it Poe's law? Godwin's law. Just like eventually they'll bring up Nazis. So that's why AA was trying to make that trend of calling viewers Nazis. Lasted about a month.
Probably not wise, to be honest.
No, well, he enjoys his memes.
He enjoys being demonetized as well, apparently.
Has he?
Oh, has he?
No, I don't know, but he's going to be if he's like, oh, yeah, my audience are a bunch of Nazis.
No, I can still send super chats. He's streaming now, actually. Oh, counter cartel.
Yeah, we're the counter. By the way, we're the counter cartel, Sargon. So we sort of dragged you into a bit of turf war at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what's going on at the moment. But yeah. So I mean, the 40 MPs who have refused to take bias training, from what I can see, I mean, I've looked my MP's on the list, so I'm quite pleased with that. I sent him an email today saying, "Well done. Now abolish it." And so I mean, hopefully somebody might respond to me on that. But the Tory Brexiteers, from what I can see, they're pretty much the ERG group who have refused to take the bias training. But I don't know about Rees-Mogg, because I hear that he was the one that was putting it forward in Parliament. I cannot be certain. Again, that's something I heard on the grapevine, but I cannot be sure. I think, I mean, I mean, I have met him, and I do know him. Knowing him, I don't think he would put this through. When I say I don't think he would put this through. I mean, but how well do I know them all? I'll be surprised if he did. But from what I can see, the sort of Conservatives that I imagine be putting this through would be like Tobias Ellwood, the sort of Southeast Wets. Those are the sort of ones I imagine they'll be pushing this within the party. Yeah, and the Prosecco's exactly. And I mean, like again, Rubbers in the chat, and we've talked about this. Richmond Conservative branch are still openly supporting Black Lives Matter, and it's like, what the fuck?
Why?
Well, I mean, it's like,
God.
don't these dumb bastards know that they support communism? Fucking idiots.
Literally, though, I think they don't, and I think that the conservative activists who are annoyed about this really have to start pushing this up the ladder. Like, listen, send the Black Lives Matter founded by Marxists video and clip around, because like they have to just be informed at the very least, And then if they're like, oh well, that I don't care, I'm just going to carry on. You can be like, right, communist,
Yeah.
But I also want to point out this article. It doesn't just say Tory MPs; it's the Brexiteers. So they are also trying to say, see, the Brexiteers were racist all along.
Good, like the Brexiteers are the only people who are going to stand up to communism. Good enough, fucking good enough.
Yeah, if that makes me racist, fair enough. Yeah.
Well, no, just like that's the thing. Like anti-racist means pro-communist. That's what it means. Critical race theory. That's what it means.
Yeah. Keep on selling me Brexit, New European. But to be fair, this is articles from the New European, so it's like, don't trust it. This is the only free one I could find.
Fair.
Because they didn't make any money anyway. So this was revealed by the Times. Again, the Times has been taken over by Marxists anyway, so. All of them have been taken by Marxists. It's really depressing.
The Daily Mail has really become like a strange beast these days. Have you not noticed?
It's hybrid. It's really hybrid. It's really Jack and Hyde, actually.
They do not know what they are anymore.
Yes.
But all their comments are like, saying, why is the Daily Mail publishing this shit? It's like like being proper, for lack of a better term, gammons in the comments. It's like, fair enough. This was your
gammons.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the list of the Tory MPs who rebelled though, because I want to see if
that's what I'm trying to. I was just having a look as well. I would pretty much imagine it would be the ERG group, but it'd be interesting to know the actual Tory and probably where they are, because I imagine most of them are Northern England. I'm pretty certain from what I know of the MPs, they are predominantly Northern England, and the Red Wall Conservatives, ironically, the ones that Boris won in the last election. So that's
I'm not Red Wall North, but I imagine my MP is on this list. Because I think he was part of the ERG, and he was definitely chair of the 1922 committee. So, but I don't want to give the name away because I don't want to dox myself too much. But but this is what we want Tory MPs to be the standard, though. We want them to be the Brexiteer ones, and I think most of the party want them to be the Brexiteer ones, apart from the Prosecco's. But the Prosecco's are the ones that get on TV. That's why you see Tom Harwood everywhere. Emily Hewitson, some of the others as well. Can't remember them, but
I can't find the list at the moment, but I imagine it's probably somewhere out there. But probably onto the crux of this, because obviously we're talking about the diversity training. Can I just ask, have any of you experienced like diversity training in your
Well, I haven't. Jesus. I might hire someone to give me diversity training at the new company, actually. That's a brilliant idea. Fuck. I'm going to write that down. Hang
Oh my god! He's not planning on hiring many people, but he's got to hire a diversity officer.
It's gonna be the most amazing podcast content. No, and it's not gonna be a permanent position, but that we'll get someone's come in and give us a presentation on how we're a bunch of racists.
Yeah, just to get first-hand information on it, I guess. Yeah.
If nothing else, I think it'd be good content.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I don't blame you.
Wouldn't it be funny if there was like a person came in and they just, or he or she didn't know who you were, Sargon.
Well, that's the point, isn't it?
And then they just like brought up like your past comments on certain MPs and such.
That'd be great. I'd be more than happy to talk about it with her.
Yeah. So we got Mr. Ben Bradley here. He was the first one that I know of that refused to take part, as he described, the Orwellian re-education courses of unconscious bias that tell ordinary people are racist. Yeah, that's how I would sum it up. I guess that's probably how maybe you guys would sum it up as well.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and I'll just go into very quickly my experience. Basically, I've experienced limited level of, I mean, I had a training which was unconscious. It wasn't diversity, but it was unconscious bias training and everything. Basically, it's like a pseudoscience method of here's a piece of paper, and you fold it back, you fill out a bit, and then you reveal it, and it turns out, oh yeah, you do see people differently, and it's like, well, yeah, of course I see people differently, and because we are all different, and basically the idea is that you are obviously unconsciously prejudiced, unconsciously biased, and it's part of in certain terms, whiteness in society is what I experienced.
What is whiteness? I mean, it's something I've been trying to get my head around for ages because it seems to be different.
What I can detect from that is it's an Americanized term to discuss to define European, I think.
But then
that's a really bad sort of clumsy American term of defining European.
Yeah, because then you kind of ask them, is Russia, is that whiteness because they're white, or I guess they're Slavic, but they only really look at the skin tone. It's you get a different answer depending who you ask, and I really don't think it's a defined term at all, apart from something I don't like. And then they come up with all these infographics, and it basically just describes Western meritocracy or liberal democracies as whiteness. It's like, oh, anything that uses a scientific method is whiteness and therefore bad. It's like, what?
that is literally their opinion, though.
Yeah. But then it's like, oh, but
decolonize science.
Yeah. Oh God, I hate the decolonize term as well because it's
How does the shaman call the lightning?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just mention this as Hayran, but Sargon, did you hear about the National Trust and what their plans at the moment is?
Decolonize their properties. Yeah.
Decolonize England is this?
Yeah, this is what gets me as well.
Yeah.
There was a ridiculous article in the Metro where it was this woman who it was from yesterday, and she was basically saying that again along the lines of decolonize rural England, and she has this really
England needs decolonizing. Amazing.
Well, she has this really bizarre world belief that rural England during the, I imagine, 18th century in her mind was full of plantations with slaves in it. I'll just see if I can find the article actually while I but obviously Ben Bradley, he we'll get onto that in a minute. He's the only one that I know that actually disagrees openly with Black Lives Matter, and he does not believe they're helping with racism. Again, he is the only Conservative MP. There is no other that is openly criticizing it, which I commend him for, because of course it's pretty much given him a sort of blacklist within the party from getting any sort of senior junior minister position or ministerial position, because he's been pretty much prevented from even appearing on any sort of form of media. But yeah, again, I think he's done well for sticking out there. He's definitely encouraged a lot of other Conservative MPs to come out of the work. But again, you shouldn't need to. I don't understand why they feel afraid to oppose this publicly, because I don't know what they think's going to happen if they do. Because fine, they call you a racist, so what? They think you're a bigoted baby killer already. I mean, what's the racist bit going to do any more harm?
Yeah, it's just a losing battle at the moment, just because of how much of the UK seems to be taken over by these people. Because as soon as you say anything against it, you don't get invited on anything. I mean, we mentioned it before, didn't we? It's I mean, people do have their livelihoods to think about, unfortunately, and this is how you end up with. I mean, it's basically enforced social norms at this point.
Yeah.
And the only place you can do it is behind a name and avatar online, unless you manage to be lucky enough to start up a new company, where at least you plan to fight against this sort of thing, which is greatly commendable for people who can do that. But yeah, quite a few of us aren't so lucky. Obviously, I've applied to try and get kind of journalist type jobs at the Spectator, but best I ever had back was Fraser Nelson saying, not this time, unfortunately. But
yeah, I was lucky. I had an interview with ITV a couple of years back, and ITV News for a journalist position, and I got to meet Piers Morgan, which I knew at the time. I knew at the time that as soon as I met him, I knew he was a complete fucking arsehole. And I tell you what, the stuff that I've heard some of those journalists talk about, especially people, and the fact that they criticize being nasty on the internet, the stuff I've heard them talk about is yeah. But yeah, so this is the article that I found. The English countryside was shaped by colonialism. Yes, the Saxons. Why rural Britain is unwelcoming for people of colour. Yeah, this is basically Devon in a nutshell.
Yeah. What do they all look disapprovingly at black women?
No, it's just not very diverse.
No, yeah, it isn't. No, the Shires are not a very diverse place, and of course, this is a problem. This is a major problem for them. And of course, part of this critical race theory, being an American import, imports the history of America into the belief, which what this journalist has done. She's basically imported the history of America and applied it with British history, which has had a very. And I'm just going to go to the next. So we go down the list here. You'll see what I mean in a sec. So it's expected that minority groups can be found in big, bustling metropolitan cities where they are likely to have migrated for economic opportunities. Yep, that's correct. They did. But cities don't just offer financial prosperity. They also there are other motivations for living in large multicultural societies, including acceptance of diversity, and also stab rate city. Rural England is pretty white, which isn't surprising because seeing the UK is a majority white country. Yes.
These would be the indigenous people of England.
I don't know what their point is when they say rural England is pretty white. Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, I imagine rural Zimbabwe is pretty black. I mean,
yeah.
What? Yes, your point is.
Yeah. I do like. I've read a bit ahead, and I see in 2011 a report from the University of Leicester entitled "Rural Racism" said there are frequent and alarming forms of racism that affect ethnic minorities in the country.
So these reports, because I've looked at these reports and I've heard these ones before. I think back in 2011, 2012, this is when I first heard about them, because it was the BBC did a documentary on this where they actually came to the town that I live, where apparently it's one of the most racist areas in the country, and yeah, and they basically had a bunch of, you know, I guess you would say activists with them who walked around and just sort of filmed people's reaction. And basically it was, people look at me funny. And it's like, no, people look at you funny because you got a fucking, like, 2 fucking camera crews with you walking around the town centre. That's why people look at you funny. But this is basically it. From the author said minority ethnic incomers are often treated with suspicion, as many white rural residents felt that they belong in cities. But to be fair, I mean, if you live, because I mean, I live in the West Country, in Somerset, and I've lived in Devon. They treat everybody, no matter if you come from London, you're white from London or from Scotland or something. They treat all people outside as, you know, suspicious, as outsiders. I mean,
try living in Cornwall. I lived in Cornwall when I was 18 till I was like 19. And man, you go into a local fucking corner shop or something, and the Cornish guy will say something to you in Cornish, but you can't understand it. But he'll just be giving you dodgy looks the entire time you're in there.
Yeah, and they call all outsiders from Cornwall Emmets. They have actually a name for foreigners, which it doesn't mean foreigners like outside the UK, just anywhere outside of Cornwall. You're called Emmets. And
local county for local people.
Yeah, it's for local people only.
It kind of is.
It is. To be fair, though, I mean, Cornwall has had a lot of colonisation of Remainers from the southeast along the coastline, so I can understand their frustration a bit.
Oh dear, white flight.
Yeah, and of course, this goes to basically this is how she views rural Britain is so yeah, so this can range from name calling. So this is from the studies, to physical violence, including people of colour who live in countryside on the grounds that they won't fit in. There's not just people's lived experiences of racism that leads to minorities feeling alienated from living in the countryside. Some say the history of the land and country houses serve as a reminder of the subjugation of black people and minorities. What country houses? What?
Well, this is probably why the National Trust are looking into the colonialisation of their property. But it just seems like their definition of colonialisation is white people living somewhere, regardless of if they've actually colonised it or not. Because white people did not colonise Cornwall or the Shires. As we said before, by every definition, they are indigenous, and indigenous people cannot be colonizers.
No, exactly. And I mean, again, this is what I would describe as, again, what the average critical race theorist in America would have viewed America, especially the Deep South, as. And again, this has been applied to British rural society, which, I mean, yes, of course, I've seen this in Somerset and Devon hundreds of times, of fields of black and Asian people picking the fields for, you know, fruit and everything, while the white matriarchy stands above, looking, you know, disapprovingly and all that. Yeah, of course, that is an accurate representation. And of course, the writer and poet Louisa Adjo Parker, who is of Ghanaian British heritage, grew up in the Southwest. And experienced more than a decade of exclusion.
What?
Exclusion? What? Like forced out of the village or something? I mean, what's?
Yeah, it doesn't really go into any detail there. She started a series entitled "Where Are You Really From?" Right, mapping the experience of other minorities like her in white rural landscapes. So she tells the existence. It's the existence of rural
tiresome.
It's the existence of rural racism that means POC, aka pickers of cotton, don't feel safe there.
Jesus, disavow.
the countryside represents the last bastions of empire.
Damn right it does.
Does it?
Yes, damn right it does.
Well, it depends what
Okay.
you mean by empire. Does it just mean
wish it
majority
did.
white places?
But that's not what the Empire meant.
I don't know.
Like, it's not what it meant.
No,
Oh my
no.
god.
But this goes back to what we said, like the empire. I mean, whiteness in their mind is the empire. The empire is white. Empire is whiteness, and rural England is predominantly white. So logic goes into, that concept. But I mean, if I remember correctly, there was the term "Little Englander" was a reference back to the. I imagine it's the 19th century, it might have been earlier, of those people who predominantly lived in the rural England, who were not so much in favour of empire as such. In fact, they were rather, I mean, again, Little England are inward looking, and so I mean, there's no historical grounds for this accusation. In fact, it's completely the other way around. I mean, and this author of this article has completely missed the point. I mean, probably deliberately, because and this really goes what we were saying about critical race theory. All of this is just demoralization. It really is. Demoralize rural communities, demoralize the the national trust, demoralize culture, demoralize history. It's just another attempt to say, because I mean, I don't understand. I mean, okay, she feels that she is excluded, but what direct examples have you got? Because the example of, okay, people look at me funny and I think they give me like a glare or something, isn't exact proof. It really isn't. Unless you're getting lynched or your family's getting lynched, then I'm sorry, there's like an active attempt to kick you out of the town or village that you're in, then you've got nothing. I'm sorry, you've got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, her whole thing is just basically, I don't feel I can fit in properly. And then she goes on to say, but there are people trying to fit in.
Is this Afua Hirsch we're talking about?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not sure.
But I think these people just are actually racist against white people, to be honest.
Well, that's all. Yeah. And it seems to be.
It's awkward. I mean, it is awkward to talk about. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I do find it awkward to talk about. And I know that there'll be some people who might watch this and think we're sort of parroting points that the Wignaps don't talk about. I don't want to be talking about this. I really don't want to be talking about this. But I don't know how else in the language, how else to describe it without sounding really awkward to talk about this.
Yeah, well, I always make it like, you try and make it analogous to other European countries. It's like if as an Englishman you move to France, you try and do as in any permanent sense, you try and do as the French do. But for some reason, if you're a different race coming to England, you don't have to do that, according to most of the people in charge. Which, if that's not colonization, I don't know what is. So, but yeah, and this is something I never wanted to talk about. I made my channel to talk about the environment, but there's no avoiding this. But well, at least it seems to have got me subs, so I'm happy with that. But it's also important to talk about, of course. And yeah, like as you say, like where's it going to go from here? They're calling literally anything to do with white people racist, whether it is or not. And that's obviously diluted the word a lot. And at this point, I think was it Blair White who basically said if someone on the left throws out the accusation of racism, I immediately think the person being called racist basically is the opposite of is like anti-racist, just because of the way the left act. And yeah, she said that's pretty dangerous, and yeah, it is. And it's why we have a small Wignut movement in the UK. And they keep trying to tell me that they're not racist, and then bring up things to do with IQ and race, which they go too far with.
If that mattered anyway, I mean, Jesus. You know.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to take an IQ test to get a job? Fuck. You know, like what? So what?
Matter,
yeah. When do you ever use an IQ test in real life?
Yeah, it just finds average. Yeah, it just finds like averages of populations basically, and that's it. And you can do it for hair color.
We don't use them for anything. Shut the fuck up about IQ tests, for the love of God.
Yeah. Oh, we want a high IQ society. Oh, you want a load of Jews?
You do. We've got people like Keith Woods in our society, unfortunately.
I was saying, I saw you arguing with him, and he seems to think that traveling nomadic tribes are communist. Yeah,
but also he's being really picky. I was just like on semi shit posting, really, just against some leftists, and so I'm giving them like the minimum response to fishhook bait them. And someone's like, define communism. Oh, dialectical materialism. Let's see where they go with this. And Keith Wood barges in. Oh no, that's just a lens. That's actually not. Oh yeah, okay, Keith. Jesus, you fucking spurk. I can tell you need this.
Yeah, I mean. I know horseshoe theory is a meme, but can they stop proving it right?
I know, man.
Fucking Morgoth does a compass test. Oh, he's a communist. What a surprise!
Fucking hell. So anyway,
I say that Richard Spencer, who is he backing Biden? Is that like for real, or is that just like?
I'm sure it's a meme. I'm sure it's a meme.
I don't know. You know, I mean. He is very memey, but I do think he would vote Biden over Trump.
No, I don't think so. Spencer, I think for all his flaws, he's not a dumb guy, and I think he's well aware that this is something that can be used tactically by the Republicans.
Yeah, I was more on the side of maybe he's turned into an accelerationist.
It could be. I don't know. That's definitely possible.
He wants to revive the Dixiecrats. And,
well, I mean, basically, is one.
Well, actually, I think Biden is pretty much a Dixiecrat as well.
I agree.
Yes, you're not black if you don't vote for me. Now get back on the plantation.
Oh God, yeah. Well, Tory, and then he's lost his mind. I actually there are still people saying like, "Oh, you're not a doctor. How do you know?" It's like, have you seen him talk? It's just.
Well, it seems to be affecting Nancy Pelosi now. I mean, did you see that interview she did where she just stopped mid-sentence and say, "Hello, good morning"? And it's like,
no,
it wasn't.
Wow, I did not see that.
She like stopped. You're talking about, I think it was Biden's campaign, and she just sort of stopped and said, "Hello, good morning," and even the CNN presenter or whoever it was, just like visibly shocked.
I mean, I'm not saying that I think that she's been like mind controlled by the CIA or something, but can we rule it out?
I think it was just a lizard brain doing a reset.
She had been in a room with Dominic Raab like a couple of days before, and Dominic Raab was over there, and he was. I mean, this is where the Dems waded in on Brexit, and basically they were just courting the Irish vote. But they basically said, if you break this into the Good Friday Agreement, we won't have a trade deal with you. And Dominic Raab was over there, and basically, from what I can gather, he basically said, "Well, we're not going to break it, but at the same time, you don't understand." He basically said to her face, "You don't understand what's going on."
It's true, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's going to be true.
Yeah, and he, I mean, that was sort of what was coming out of Downing Street as well. As basically the Democrat they said Biden doesn't understand what's going on, and it's really funny because when they put they didn't put Brexit on the end. They just said he doesn't understand what's going on.
Generally,
and then they sort of followed up with the Brexit like transition bit. And I was like, no, I understand what you meant the first time. I understand what you meant about the first time. But as Hayran sort of referenced, of course, all of this sort of effectively this anti-white individuals pushing this critical race theory, it has led to some really bad real-world consequences, especially in this country. And I think Sargon and I, when we were organising to get you on here, I referenced probably back in August, I think it was, to Callum. That we were going to talk about at some point the grooming gangs, because I know that you have been quite heavily covering this throughout now and then. I mean, could you just give, I guess, quick summary, I guess, for those who may be watching who might not know the full picture of this, the grooming gallery scandal in your
well, it seems like for something like more than 30 years, Muslim immigrants, mostly from Pakistan, have been like a small proportion of the community, but a proportion that I think is far larger than, I mean, it's large enough to be eye-opening, it seems, have been operating child sex trafficking rings that have an ethnic dimension that prey on mostly English girls, although not exclusively. If they can find a Pakistani girl they'll describe as a coconut, as in a Pakistani girl who doesn't act like she lives in Pakistan and acts like she lives in England, they'll treat her just the same, and they'll prostitute them. They'll bully them and rape them and essentially break the will. Some of the reports, some of the actual like descriptions from the victims of these gangs are really quite horrific. Like, you wouldn't be allowed to look the men in the face and stuff like this. And if you were, you were essentially inviting them for sex. It's basically the same sort of mentality towards women that ISIS have. They definitely religious extremists, or at least informed by a certain kind of brand of religious extremism. Although this doesn't necessarily manifest itself in piety. It's based on a kind of ideological framework of, we're allowed to do this because the Quran says so, and we don't have to do anything. There's no sacrifices or duty or anything behind it, but it's definitely informed by the religion.
Yeah, and of course, it is worth noting that in Pakistan, one of the most prevailing creeds of Sunni Islam that exist out there and has come is Deobandism. And for those who might not know, Deobandism was effectively prevalent within British India because it was a heavily anti-British creed of Islam. It was inherently anti-British. It encouraged many revolts. You would have.
There was a symposium held at a place called Deoband, a town in northern India, between a bunch of Islamic mullahs, or whatever you want to call them, clerics, and this was the foundation of a very and the movement was founded for much the same reasons as like other, I guess we could just call jihadi movements throughout the history of Islam during the colonial era, which is that they thought that sort of European liberalism was doing damage, or British liberalism was doing damage to Islam itself as a concept, and a sort of, reification of the philosophy, which undoubtedly was. And so that's why they decided to start this form of Islam. And now half of our mosques are controlled by this form of Islam. So it's crazy.
And so this probably explains the reason why there is this almost contempt for British law, British society from these individuals. And of course, a lot of these men, again, as we said, were Pakistani Muslim Deobandis, part of these mosques, and the culture, as we said, because this is the thing, and this sort of, anyone who says that all cultures are equal, I mean, I think this disproves that claim entirely at this point. I don't think there's any basis for the claim that these cultures are equal, because it is prevalent. I mean, we know from, I mean, a good example is the British soldiers in Afghanistan. There are hundreds of accounts of British soldiers saying they witnessed these sort of sexual assaults.
Well, Mark Horton, when he went over to, what was it, Iraq or Syria, somewhere like that, when he was in the RAF, didn't I'm sure he told me stories about these fucking, you can hear them raping boys and stuff like this.
Yeah, it exists in Afghanistan. I mean, it's one of those ancient tribal customs which should have stayed, back in the 9th century. It should have stayed there. And as you said, this is the problem, because it's been allowed to exist in this country, and it hasn't. I mean, it hasn't just been the sexual assaults. It's been the more. It's been actual radical violence, and of course, I don't know if probably Hayran might not remember, but especially during the Blair years, I remember seeing on TV in the streets Abu Kataba and Andrew Chowdhury and co would stand on the street and preach, and they would be preaching exactly what Al Qaeda, what Bin Laden, and what ISIS preached exactly. I mean, and so to suggest that there is, I mean, I don't know the exact figure when it comes to mosques, but from what I can gather, I would say that this sort of ideology is quite. I would say it. I mean, I think there was a survey done a few years ago, sort of an opinion survey on the British Muslim population. I think it was about 51% sort of agreed with the more radical elements of Islam. Bearing in mind, when you take all the religions in the UK, that's quite a high number. I mean, I can't imagine Anglicans, like 50% of Anglicans would want homosexuals to be and thrown off buildings and all that sort of stuff. I can't imagine that taking place. But yeah, and of course with the grooming gangs, I mean, we don't know the full number. I mean, there's been some numbers with like 1 million girls, up in the millions. Again, we just don't know because the grooming gang report and because Priti Patel hasn't released the report. And I hoped, because I was I hoped by now there would be more detail. From what I can gather, from within the party that sort of asking around, it looks like there is a breakdown in trust within her department between the civil servants and her. That's what I heard. I.e., she doesn't trust what the civil servant. I don't think she trusts. She doesn't trust what she's being told. Though I cannot. I mean, I'm not going to say that's a definite.
Well, I wouldn't trust them either, to be honest.
Well, I wouldn't trust them either. But from what I gather, when it comes to the grooming gang reports, there's a belief that they're not being told the full picture. And I'll just bring up this article, and they'll probably explain why the trust, why there is a problem with trust. So, obviously, continue with the theme of critical race theory and its horrendous outcome of when it actually is applied in the real world. And so this is from. It's an interesting one because the same thing, and we just see the title here: fear of racism isn't to blame for police failure to stop grooming gangs. They fail across all kinds
what
of
excuse
cases.
could you possibly fucking have if it's not the fear of racism?
This is classic laughing at the Guardian.
Yeah,
I know it's the Independent. But this is something I'd go
Same
through.
fucking principle, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we go through the article. She sort of debunks it, but this came out the same time in an interview. The South Yorkshire Police said that effectively the reason they didn't do anything was because of community tensions, which again coded is basically, we don't want to be a peer racist.
It's community tensions, not fear of racism.
Is one group raping another group's daughters not community tensions?
Well,
like that doesn't cause community tensions or anything.
Well,
right? Okay, got your police.
Community, well, that goes back to we said a certain community just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter to them. And so of course this journalist, if you will, activist, a scandal in Manchester saw as many as 100 men suspected of organised sexual exploitation over a number of years, blaming the authorities' failure to stop them on political correctness is too easy. Well, maybe they were complacent with it. So,
well, where in Manchester? Because I can pretty much guarantee if they are, if it's in certain boroughs.
So now this is it where the independent. This is the interesting bit. So the independent officer for police conduct quoted a chief inspector on the sexual abuse case in Rotherham, saying, "With it being Asians, we can't afford for this to be coming out," cementing the idea that sex offenders of Asian origin are not charged principally because the police do not want to be branded racist. Now, this particular police constable in Rotherham didn't just go along with the party line of community tensions. He was pretty honest when it came to this. He basically just said, we don't want to be branded racist. So automatically this article that she's put together has completely debunked the statement in the from the start. Of course, it's down to not appearing racist. I mean, why else? As we said earlier, why else would the police do nothing about this?
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine if the races were switched around, this would never have happened. So, yeah, I don't know what the police's excuse would be when. I mean, again, they've got that grooming gang report that they're refusing to release, which I think a lot of people seem to think the main reason for that is to save it for an election as a vote winner. But
yeah,
yeah, which I've always been kind of sympathetic to, but at the same time, this is quite serious. Shouldn't be playing games with things like that.
Well, I mean, as Sargon just referenced, the common denominator between all these offenders is one thing, and it's one thing that is not that the media refuses. Everyone in the media refuses to acknowledge that it is not just British. It's not just British Asian, because it's not. Again, it's not the Sikhs. It's not the Hindus. It's not the Indian Christians.
The Sikhs actively complained about this as well. Please stop saying Asian, because we're Asian and we're not part of these gangs.
Yeah, a lot of the perpetrators have a particular prophet's name as their name. So
as David Woods put it, what do all these Mohammeds have in common?
I think this is normal, Mohammed.
But I'm gonna head off, chaps.
Sorry to say. Thanks for coming on.
No worries. I've got to go into the office early tomorrow, in fact. So can't stay up all night chatting about stuff, I'm afraid. But thanks for inviting me on, and I'm sure we can do this again in the future.
Yeah, I'll try and get you on my channel as well sometime soon. I think. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, chaps. Bye.
See you. Bye. Yeah, we can finish this off.
Yeah, so we just finish this article off and then probably call it a night then. So I mean, as we said, this is there is the common denominator is effectively what they will not claim, and it is Muslim grooming gangs, because as we said, it isn't just one Asian part or the broad term Asian. It is a specific group within that community. And that's what's causing the problem with the, I guess, the politically correct, everyone's diversity is our strength lot, is in fact it just undermines that argument completely.
Yeah, well, it's quite common with critical race theory when it comes to that. A lot of their own arguments undermine them completely. And that's been going on for years.
And this is the thing, is you would expect like these intellectuals to be the most critical, the most, I mean, they're meant to be the best thinkers in society, and yet they somehow have been completely duped into believing I mean, probably the most like cultic and the most regressive ideological thought current today. It's just amazing how they've fallen for it. And the problem is the real world, as we said, the real world effects to this are devastating, because then you suddenly have hundreds of thousands of vulnerable girls being abused, and even today there are good portions who refuse to accept it even happened. And then, of course, you got the Lammy review, and they've jumped up, and there's treatment of BMME and the criminal justice, and it's just, I mean, it's completely the. I mean, the term cathedral, blob, or whatever you like to call it, it is that group looking after itself and looking after its own interest and chucking. I mean, they're chucking the police under the bus, which is fine, but they're chucking it under the bus for the wrong reason. They're chucking them under the bus because they accuse them of being racist, not because they actually covered up racist sexual abuse.
Yeah, pretty much covered it.
So I mean, again,
but then, I was just going to point out, there's always something else to blame with these things as well. It's like, The report of what happened in Manchester point to a lack of police resources along with tensions between the 3 divisions covering the case. It's like, right, but that's not our main problem here. Our main problem here is that you're not pointing out what the actual core of the problem is. I mean, and then you're covering up when you find it out. That's not due to lack of resources. They'll just find anything, any scapegoat to blame anything other than what it is. Which, you know, I know we skirt around the actually saying it ourselves, but
Yeah.
it is the thing that all these Mohammeds have in common.
Yeah, it's their cultural worldview, and it's and the problem is the multiculturalism. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work because you can't have two radical philosophies, opposing philosophies, and thoughts and cultures existing in the same spot at once without it causing. I mean, for God's sake, like, I mean, Yugoslavia should be the prime example of why it just doesn't work. But yeah, so I mean, as we sort of learn, pretty much what we've come to the end of the stream here is that diversity training, critical race theory, it's affected all aspects of society, but also it's the damaging effect it has in real world, because you have these cases. I mean, this is what's happened so far. I mean, God knows what will happen in the future with the current trajectory that we're on with this. But yeah, I mean, it's when it goes from like university papers and such, and it just goes into real world, and this is what we got.
Yeah, and that it's not just critical race theory that's happened. That's all of intersectionality, basically.
Yeah, it covers all aspects, and as we said, it's the demoralization aspect of it. I'll just try. I'll wrap this up now.
All right.
So I think. Sorry, I can't interact too much with the chat here, but thank you, all those who have come on, and I think someone's just sent. What he sent the chat? AI. So I'm a working class 29-year-old Anglican. My church I was baptized in has been given over to evangelical Baptist group. I won't run to the Roman Anglicanism in his queen and country under God. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm a Catholic, as I've mentioned before, and I'm afraid that Anglicanism seems to have just turned into agnosticism.
Yeah. I mean, I've chased them out of the church with a whip or something. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I say that as a Catholic, and I am fully aware that our current Pope is a bit wet when it comes to.
No, he's a Marxist. Let's be honest.
He is Marxist. Yeah,
he's a Marxist.
Having said that, though,
he's probably an atheist as well. I mean, it's
a modernist. Yeah, well, having said that, my mother and the whole family, me as well, got a little thing from the Pope saying that our family's been blessed. So, or from the Vatican, I should say. But
you got your mark of Satan, so that's good.
Hey, look, I'd rather it be John Paul II, but can't have everything.
I mean, yeah. So we come to that point. A bit of shilling here before we finish is I've got in the description 2 Discord links, one for the British Museum, other one for the Basket Weavers. Go check him out because that's great community, sort of chatting, tactics, wholesome content, all that stuff. And also I've put in the description Saffron's Etsy page for the stickers. Go get some stickers for your laptop and your TVs and fridges and whatnot, of like Pepe's and all that sort of stuff. And then of course I've also put in the description, I put in Nathan Hood and Joz, the Great and Powerful's YouTube channel. go check them out because they are growing and they've got
two people who aren't on the stream.
2 people who aren't on.
Yeah.
I don't think. So, I mean, I will put Hayran. I'll put your YouTube as well in the description. I mean, I could put Sargon in there because I'm pretty certain there's like many people watching this won't know who Sargon is, and of course,
of course, he needs the help. Yeah,
needs the help to get those views and everything. I'll put his stuff in the description as well.
I mean, I may as well shill as well a bit.
Go ahead.
So I should be having a video up, if not tomorrow, Thursday, about the announcements Mr. Boris Johnson has made and why they are retarded. Then Friday, I should be doing a stream playing Among Us with a few people from Twitter, and I think Rosa Dordal actually, and the person might be joining that as well, actually. So a few big names playing that as well. And finally, Saturday evening, we have Laughing at the Guardian this week. We've got Rose of Dawn on, and you're coming on, Al.
Yeah, I'm coming on the Saturday stuff, and you got Rose. Yeah, you got Rose of Dawn. She's now a big celebrity in her own right, and I mean, this is quite a big week, isn't it? Really, we have Sargon, and this we sort of all gone a bit mainstream a bit.
Let's hope for the best. So that's, and then I might make another video at the weekend. I don't know. It depends what annoys me. That's basically my standard thing now. If I've not got anything planned, but there you go. So a few things this week from me.
Yeah.
Buy my mugs.
Buy mugs and
anti-cartel mugs. Yeah.
Anti-cartel mugs. Yeah, and also, I mean, as I said, I know we're competing with Academic Agent and his sort of stuff, but I mean, who wants to watch like them debating taps? I mean, what the fuck is that about? Talk deconstructionism like at its finest. I mean, what are you gonna do? Revert back to barbarian taps of not washing yourself? I mean, anyway, So, who else have I got to? I think that's all the shitting. So I mean, this Blob Watch, I probably won't do another one this week because I've done quite a few streams at the moment. Because also my StreamYard has like a limit, like the free stuff has a limit on it. So I'm getting constant reminders I'm coming up to that limit. So I'll probably give this week a miss and we'll continue next week as normal. I also need to get some more guests on and start planning ahead. But again, as you said, I'll be on the Laugh at the Guardian, so I'll see you all guys then on Saturday.
Yep, Saturday 8 p.m. my channel.
Yeah, your channel, and should be good, should be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and one more shill in November. I'm doing a 24-hour stream, and I'll be inviting as many guests as possible on. So I'll tell you, you'll be there. Shire just to, depending on what point, because I think first part will be talking about modern politics, second part will be gaming, and then third part will be probably I'll be fucking out of my mind by that point, so just shit posting at that point.
I see there's a part of me that will go for the gaming one because I'm just sick of modern politics now. It's just
I think it'll be games like Among Us and Jackbox. So yeah.
Oh, okay, like sort of female games then, all right. I got you. Yes, okay, fine.
Unbelievable, right?
So I'm joking. It should be good. 24-hour stream should be great to watch, especially the last 30 minutes. I imagine you'll be going out of your mind.
I don't know why I agreed to do it, but whatever, I'm committed.
Committed to the cause. Well, I mean, you got your satanic mark with you, so you should be all right.
Right, Anglicans, man. Right.
So, but anyway, thank you for coming on, and again, thank you, Sargon, for coming on. It's a good stream, and I will see you all guys later. See you all on Twitter as well, and thank you everyone in the comments and such for participating. Sorry I couldn't read all of them out because I've got a deluge coming through, but again, thank you very much, and I'll see you all guys later.
All right, see you, chat.